honesty experiment. This is another week. We gained Derek back, and we have lost Q for this week. But that's okay. We shall trudge through. So this week, we have, again, Derek.
Hey.
We've got me, Clay. We've got Cody back again.
What up?
And we've got Darren back again by popular demand because
the inbox was flooded, wasn't it?
Inbox was flooded. So, like, I don't know about y'all, but my favorite episode was with Darren, and maybe it's just because I'm partial because I enjoyed Darren so much. But either way, I thoroughly enjoyed that episode. So today or tonight, what we're going to talk about is a little bit of a smorgasbord of topics, right? So,
can you spell that?
Smorgasbord. I can barely pronounce it.
I was fixed to say I was proud enough you could pronounce it.
Would you be impressed if I could?
Spell it? Absolutely.
I can't.
I didn't think.
So what we're going to talk about tonight is specifically football to begin with, and then we shall progress into what it looks like to share your faith in our culture, because our culture is very difficult. So first of all,
is this like our first ever football preview?
Maybe. I mean, we're about to enter football season.
Tomorrow's August,
and there
it all makes sense again.
Didn't you play football in high school? Didn't you?
Have you been to Lebanon?
Derek was the quarterback, if you did not know, for Iberville High School. Darren, did you play football in high school?
Not at the high school level. I played
middle school?
As a freshman. I played in 7th grade, 8th grade, and I did play as my 9th grade. But I finally found out football was
not your thing.
Not for me. I mean, I weighed 140 pounds, and I was trying to tackle 220-pound guys, and
it's a spider.
It just wasn't for me.
Wasn't your forte.
It wasn't my thing. I enjoyed it. I've done all right at it.
When you played, what did you play? What position?
Outside linebacker, and most of the time free safety. Usually I played safety because I was pretty quick in high school, so that's what they put. Punt return, kickoff.
Yeah. Which is the most dangerous play in sports.
I hated being. Kickoff return didn't bother me nowhere near as bad as punt return did.
You can get murdered. Especially, I'm not trying to be rude, but especially back in your day.
Oh yeah, because there was nothing. There wasn't
no rules.
There's no rules then, really. I'm serious. The word spearing was not ever heard of when I was in school.
That was just a good hit.
That was just a great
hit. Look at that hit.
You know, only thing the coach ever said was try to make sure you get your head up. You know, so you don't damage your spine or whatever. But as far as if you didn't, there was never a word ever said.
I mean, that's actually the last probably. It popped up really big when I was in Opelika, and it's Pete Carroll and the Seahawks actually came out, and it's a form of tackling called hawk and roll because they're the Seahawks, so play on words. And their whole philosophy was to take helmet-to-helmet contact out of sports, because if there's helmet-to-helmet contact, the defense is getting flagged 15 yards.
Yep.
So they basically changed where you were taught break down, get across, get your chin on the football, but what do you do when that defender drops his head? There's still going to be helmet-to-helmet contact. And so they've come out with, near hip, far hip, trailing, 45-degree angle, 90-degree angle, sideline. And I think for professionals it's fantastic because they do that year-round. But for 16-year-old kid that's got school and ball and girls and all these other stuff, I don't want him thinking, wait a minute, is this near hip or far hip? Am I trailing?
It's too late.
It's too, you know what I'm saying? Like,
all right. Well, since we're skedaddling right into the topic, did you play football in high school, Cody?
No.
You did not?
No.
You're out of your element on this topic.
Yes, I was also homeschooled. So
okay.
I was also
homeschoolers can't play football.
Tim Tebow.
Yeah. So we're skedaddling into the topic. What are y'all's opinion about the targeting penalty? Is that a good thing, or because you were hitting at it right there?
I think that in essence, it's a good rule. I think the way that college enforces the rule is ridiculous. So, like in the NFL, if there's helmet-to-helmet contact, they flag that joker, they move the ball 15 yards, and everybody moves on. In college, when this happens, it's 15 yards, he's ejected, review it. If he's thrown out, then he has to sit out the next half. And some of the times, to me, there's two different instances. If a ball carrier drops his head and a defender is in good tackling position and their heads make contact, that's called football. You in essence signed up for that. Now, if a receiver goes up for the ball and he's in the air and you launch yourself like a missile into his head and neck area while he's defenseless, again, back in the day, that would have been a good hit. Been on Sports Center, we'd have all. But here's the deal: that's not it. That shouldn't. You know what I'm saying? We shouldn't try to kill people. You know what I'm saying? Like that literally can cause death. So, to me, it should be done. You know, and it's hard to know intent. But to me, if a guy's trying to hurt another guy, it's pretty obvious. Because he's going to do stuff that doesn't look like football. You know, like it looks out of place.
It doesn't matter what level you're at.
No.
Really. It don't matter if you're playing pee-wee ball and the coach has already got the guys saying that this is what you need to do. I mean, my 7th grade year, I had a coach that when I was on the outside line, he would say, Darren, grab sand or dirt. And as you come up through the line, let it go. I kid you not.
Yeah.
He didn't say throw it in his face, but he would say, let it go. So all of a sudden, this guy gets
and that was before frozen, so he couldn't have been saying.
Yeah, right. So it was just like, I'm like, never mind. But I was like, man, you're really asking me to do something like that. And he said,
boy.
Well, it wasn't like I'm just chunking it right in his helmet. And back then, especially at junior high level, we didn't have nothing but a bar,
yeah,
or maybe two with a couple of little
knock
spots.
That chin off.
Yeah, I mean, so it wasn't like we had high class helmets, stuff that would just really help you. But still, I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that to this guy, But he got on me one time. I can remember him saying, "Hey, I need you to help out here." He said, the only way you're going to get by him is you got to divert him somehow, So, needless to say, I kind of let a few of them go.
I see another aspect of this that I was completely unaware of for a long time, and it was this guy, and he was talking about the inconsistency in salaries, which is a whole other topic, for defensive players in the NFL. And he was arguing, he said, if you look, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, offensive players get paid way more than
left
defensive.
tackle.
Yeah.
Left tackle.
And so he said that's not correct because they don't have to pay fines like defensive players. And I said, hold on a second, what are we talking about? And I didn't realize that in the NFL, if you commit a penalty,
you get fined.
You get fined. So I looked this up right here. This is really interesting to me. If you strike, kick, or knee someone, the first offense is $7,875.
Mm-hmm.
If you horse collar tackle, it's $15,750. Face mask, $7,875.
And by the way, I think.
Here's an offensive one. I'm sorry, blindside block.
Yep,
$21,000.
And here's the deal. I think. Don't get me wrong. I think that the league office reviews game film.
They do.
And when calls are missed, those fines are still assessed.
I think you're correct.
Yes,
I think you're correct.
because especially if
it wasn't caught on the field,
especially with the heavy contact, head and neck area. I think because you'll hear them on the broadcast go, well, if they miss that one now, they'll get it. They'll get it in the morning.
Yeah.
So well, here's the deal. Tom Brady actually had an amazing clip this past offseason before he retired, and then came back.
He retired.
He actually said, when he first started playing quarterback, like for instance, when they played the Baltimore Ravens and they had Ray Lewis and Ed Reed, he said, we didn't throw.
I don't know how that joker ever made any money.
I know. He said, we didn't throw over the middle.
Oh, no.
He said, because we didn't want to get our guys killed.
Yeah.
Okay. So it was pretty much understood. We're not running quick slants. We're not going to run digs. We're not going to run post. And he said, and he goes, now, he said, the way that the game is set up,
it invites that.
Yeah. We will actually throw that because we know that safety can't lay off that hit.
Yeah.
And it will be
Draw
a 15-yard flag.
Yeah.
And he goes, he goes, and then he said this. This was interesting too. He goes, as a quarterback, this is what he said. He goes, which is really completely unfair for a defender because he's getting paid to prevent me from making that pass. And he said, it's my job to keep my guys safe. It's not the defense's job to keep me safe. And so that's actually a very honest conversation from, to me, one of the greatest player. It's a team sport. He's won more than all of them. So
I was going to tell you, I never have been a true, I would consider myself a Brady fan, but it's like any other athlete out there. The numbers justify who he is and what he does.
Well, does that work with LeBron?
Huh?
Does that work with?
Yeah, I'm not saying he's not Michael Jordan, and he'll never be Michael Jordan.
But if he breaks Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's record,
then he's going to be one of the greatest.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying. That's just
Interesting. I growl not because I disagree. I growl because I.
Yeah, we've had this conversation.
Oh yeah,
before.
we've had it multiple times. I just don't like the man.
And here's my point.
Just retire or don't retire.
No, who cares about that? He can do whatever he wants to. He can do whatever he wants. He can
don't
retire
care.
right now and then come back. I don't care.
He don't care. About
You get to
the
do
money.
what you want.
You do what you want.
Here's the deal. Aaron Rodgers
I think it's a little
has more quarterback talent
Yes.
than probably anybody that my eyes have ever seen. Okay, he's Brett Favre, but better. Okay, and I hate to look. I hate it. I'm a Brett Favre guy. But here's the deal. It's a team game, and so Aaron, for some reason, has this problem with having pretty talented teams and then not being able to win when it matters. And Tom Brady will take a bunch of misfit Division II college quarterback with wide receivers, and he'll win the Super Bowl.
Well, let me ask you this: like in that regard, because I mean, there's all kinds of stories about like Tom Brady yelling at his coach, telling him like, "No, we're going to do this play." You think that's good? Because that don't really seem like a team player right there. That seems like a narcissistic maniac.
Well, I mean,
It's I'm gonna be honest with you. It's like everybody else. When you've been around, I'm not gonna jump you too much, but if you've been around as long as he has and seen what he has seen on the field in motion, he's got a. I'm not saying that's the. You shouldn't do that in front of everybody, but you should be able to go back and say, "Hey, coach,
I
look at this. Look at this play on film."
do you think Peyton Manning?
I think
rip offensive coordinator all the time.
I don't disagree. I think that Tom Brady probably knows more about football than anybody out there, including the coach. I just don't know about screaming and yelling at your coach on the sideline. Regardless of whether it's Peyton Manning or not.
I think he would probably.
Much I love that man.
I think he would be the first to tell you. Last year he broke the Surface. The Microsoft Surface tablet. He got mad. He threw an interception. He came off. He just shattered.
Tom Brady.
Yes. Oh,
he
pitched
all into pieces.
That's not
a
surprising.
hissy fit.
That's
all
not
right.
surprising.
He also against the Saints. He threw an interception, and then they had to blur his mouth. He was talking to the Saints bench. He'll be the first to tell you
taunting? Is that taunting?
Taunting.
7,800.
Yeah, he probably got that. But
care.
I think that his competitive nature overrides sometimes the ability to keep it all together. But he has so much equity in the fact that he's done it over and over again that here's the deal. I'm going to let that like. If Gavin's watching that, be like, baby, you shouldn't do that. But if you've won 7 Super Bowls, you want to get mad at the coach, be all right. It'll be all right.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can get on board with it.
But it's we all like, just like Derek said though. If you're in the competitive nature that you're in, especially at that level, and we have no idea what that level is really like. I'm just going to be honest. We have no idea.
Clue.
And can you imagine how
you're talking about the stress,
the intensity of something at that level and what's going on?
Now look, and here's the deal. I love college football. Like Saturday morning, I'm watching game day, and I'm watching, Big 12 noon kickoff, and it's 2 teams I don't even care about, but I'm watching it. But there's nothing on the planet that comes close to the, like he said, the intensity and the competitiveness of like the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cleveland Browns. You know what I'm saying? Because they are, even though they're
it's another level.
It's just like that. Like he said, that people
Have you
can't
ever been
even.
to an NFL game?
No,
Yes.
see, I've
Darren, you
never
have,
even
right?
been.
I've been to multiple NFL games, and I'm going to tell you right now, the first time I watched Atlanta play. Who did they play? Green Bay, actually, when I was in high school. So me and my dad drove from South Carolina to there. And when I watched them play, after watching, back then I used to go to South Carolina games more because I went, oh, this is nowhere near the same.
Yeah.
The speed of the game, the intensity of the hitting, everything. Oh, my.
It's interesting because, like, I remember it wasn't until like a couple of years ago that it was the first time I went to an Alabama game, college football game.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember sitting in the stands, and we had nosebleeds, okay? And I remember sitting there, and I've watched Alabama football my entire life. I remember sitting there, and like literally the whole time I was going, like, did you see how high he threw that ball?
Did you see how far he punted that ball? Did you see how
And
far he kicked that ball?
Yeah, and so, as much as Alabama fans like to say this whenever you have a really good Alabama team, you can take the best Alabama team there ever was and play the Cleveland Browns, and they're going to get smoked.
They're going to get beat. I hate that argument.
So what's
every
really
year.
interesting
I
is
hate
like if it's that amazing for an Alabama game, I cannot even imagine what it's like for an NFL.
Especially when you get to watch people like Jerry Rice. And,
Yeah.
I watched Joe Montana. You can see Michael Vick. I got to see him play one time. I mean, I'm like, you just don't understand how fast these guys are. You'll see an angle, and you'll think this guy's got him.
Nope.
And all of a sudden, there's a different gear, and this cat is gone.
Well, I mean, even in high school, like when I was at Opelika, and they went and played Hoover for the last regular season game before the playoffs started. And it was a non-region game. And so those games, you're trying not to get anybody hurt, and they're about to go play the playoffs. We're about to go play the playoffs. So that game was a little, but I'm talking like we roll up to Hoover, and Opelika's got some dudes. And I'm like, we're going to beat Hoover.
You just walk out.
We had a hard time crossing the 50. I'm not gonna lie.
I guarantee.
I'm talking like some dudes, and I'm like, and then we ended up actually that same year playing them 5 weeks later for the state championship game in Auburn, and we played better, but we still struggled crossing the 50, and they won another state championship, and they were so squared away, and they were so well coached. Like, Marlon Humphrey that played at Alabama, and he plays for the Ravens. When he played for Hoover, the game in Hoover, and then the next year they came to Opelika, and I've actually been telling my defensive backs this week. They would run a play, okay? Marlon Humphrey would do whatever he needed to do on that play. When the play was over, he would work his back pedal drills in between plays. I've never seen a guy do that. And by the way, you talk about another gear, that's the fastest human being that I've ever seen live on turf. I'm talking like not even close. Like, he was by far the best athlete that I ever watched. And so it's just that attention to detail.
Let's go back to Tom Brady for a second. And I'm not just trying to crap on Tom Brady. He just happens to be.
You are.
Well, I don't like him. I'll be the first to say I don't like him.
You don't like the winners? You don't like the
I like Nick Saban.
No, look, person. I'm not a Tom Brady attitude type of.
Here's what I'm saying. There's a difference. There is a profound difference between an explanation and an excuse. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say the dude's won how many Super Bowls? Seven. He's won seven Super Bowls.
What, 10? Could have won 10.
And so therefore, when he wins that many Super Bowls and he produces that much, screaming and yelling at his coach on the sidelines, it's understandable. That's an explanation. I'm there with it. That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That dude knows football, and therefore he has earned the right to do that. But to me, that's merely an explanation, not an excuse. As a human being, that's crap.
So my question then will be, so how do you transfer that kind of situation into a spiritual realm and to let kids know today, this guy.
That's a great question.
This guy
Apparently
has
Derek
done
just
that.
says it's okay.
This guy has done this. Excuse me. And he is really well at his craft.
Yeah.
And he has really done it.
You want him to be a role
profoundly.
model.
But at the same time, how many parents would go, I want Tom Brady style training for my child?
Well, because I think a lot of people are willing to sacrifice the morality aspect of it to gain some sort of competitive edge, and they leave the character.
Yeah.
They leave. Which, by the way, like I'll just say this: like
He's not getting paid to be a good guy.
I agree that I mean his job is not, but I'm talking about our kids, like our youth kids, and that's one thing. Like I won't say that I was nervous about being back in like the football world, but like I will say this: like there's not a lot of difference from what Coach English and some of the other coaches are hammering Albertville kids on that I don't hammer my youth kids on. You know, like we have core values
same
and
strategy.
we're toughness, family, discipline. Like we're hammering those things over like.
Here's my question though: is Tom Brady doing that, or is he just trying to win a Super Bowl?
I think look, here's the deal. Here's what you're missing. You're picking out individual moments, which by the way, we all have individual moments that we're
That's
not
true.
proud of.
I was going to say,
But
so I'm not speaking out of both sides of my mouth.
yeah.
You can find some on Nick Saban too.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
Any of them.
Plenty.
Any of them.
But you go ask any one of Tom Brady's teammates, and they will tell you probably to a T, all of them, that he would literally die for like the guy for Gronk. And for the guy that you literally never know his name. Like they will tell you that he is the best teammate that they've ever had. Because he puts I think a lot of his competitive nature is not for him. It's for the team.
I mean, yeah, he's won 7. Was he 8-4?
Which Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, he's the exact opposite of that. Yeah, for some reason I seem to like Aaron Rodgers better.
I'll be honest with you. He is one of them guys that I go,
Aaron Rodgers.
if you had half the drive of Tom Brady, just half of it, you would be the most amazing man there is around.
Dude, he'll be on his back foot with no weight transfer. Like no athleticism at all on your back foot. And he will basically total right arm dime piece 50 yards in the air in between two people. It's unbelievable.
Have you seen that dude with his shirt off?
Yeah. Did you see him the other day when he walked around?
He gave his Con Air.
Yeah, I was right. He did. I was like, you Nicolas Cage or what?
He's ginormous.
Here's my argument about Tom. And when people want to say for Tom, when people want to say this or that, there's 1 year that the Patriots actually spent money on a wide receiver. And his name was Randy Moss. And Randy Moss was already over the hill at this point. He had 2 years with Randy Moss.
Randy
the
Moss
first
was
year,
a bit of a turd too.
he was. Yeah. But Randy will still tell you Tom was his best teammate.
Better believe it.
All right. The year that he had Randy Moss wash over the hill, like still good. Don't get me wrong. Still great. But he wasn't what he was.
Not peak.
He broke the touchdown record and the yardage record. And by the way, they lost one ball game that year, and that just happened to be the Super Bowl. So they gave him a wide receiver. And the one time in his career they actually gave him a wide receiver in his prime. And I was just sitting here thinking, if they had 3 guys that were a quarter of Randy, what would he do every single year?
Versus Aaron Rodgers, who cries when they don't draft him.
Yeah, because they drafted a backup quarterback, or because he's not getting paid what he thinks the market should pay him, or any kind of number of complaints that Aaron could have.
Have you? I don't know why you would have seen this. I don't know why I saw it, but ESPN London.
I don't even know why I saw it.
ESPN London came out and ranked who they think is going to be the best quarterbacks of this season. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady was number 12, I think. They put him at 12.
See, they just did him a favor because he's like that's hanging
baby.
in his locker right now.
They had Kyler Murray at 3 though, and I was like, that dude's getting real close to being dried up. Mm-hmm. Did you see playoffs last year? Mm-hmm. It's bad.
They figured him out. I mean,
oh my gosh,
they figured him out.
So bad.
See, that's another
so
thing. That's another thing that amazes me about Tom. You've been in the league as long as he has, and you know every defensive scheme in the world is trying to figure out what can I do to stop it, because he's not fast. He's not coming out of the pocket.
No,
he just can see the field so much quicker.
So that's actually I didn't use Tom, but what I'm telling my defensive backs is, we're trying to. All defenses, not just ours, all defenses are trying to make one thing look like something
else.
And then when the ball is snapped, it's something else. And so for my guys, what I'm telling them is like, look, we need that quarterback. Like when we go play Bob Jones and James Clemens and Sparkman and all these dudes that are getting recruited, and Bob Jones' quarterback is phenomenal. And so I'm like, look, we've got to make him think one thing, and when he snaps the ball, that gives us an extra second or second and a half, because when he snaps the ball, then he has to go to that, okay, now it's this, now what do I do with the ball? And Tom Brady will always tell you that he'll tell you, I'm not the fastest, I don't have the best arm, I can't throw it the farthest. And he'll tell you, he said, but before the ball, him and Peyton Manning, before the ball was snapped, it didn't matter how they lined up, it didn't matter what they showed. He had watched enough film and he knew enough that when the ball was snapped, he knew one or two guys that he was going to based on what their defense was.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's a genius in that regard.
Oh,
I mean, Peyton was that way even in college. I mean, you could tell it when he got to Tennessee, because I watched the first couple of games of Peyton, and I'm like, they went, well, they're bringing him in now. He's blah, blah, and I'm going, oh, after he threw about the first 10 passes, I went, oh. It's going to be a long time till he gets to the pros, baby. It's going to be a long time.
Which is interesting because Arch Manning just got dropped. He's not the number one overall pick anymore in that class. He's number dos. But if you watch his film, they've actually, I don't believe all the conspiracy stuff on the internet, but one guy I was watching, they were like, his last name probably bumped him up because how people recruit skill guys. So like running backs, quarterbacks, and receivers and DBs, they get recruited. The measurables, of course, what's their 40, how big are they? But they also look at the competition that they're playing against.
Yes.
So if you're a running back in some little place in in the middle of Mississippi,
let's just say 5.
Yeah, if you're in 5 and you're just putting up stupid numbers. And they flip the film
They're
on.
They're going to look at your competition and go, that makes sense.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, so Arch Manning, if you really study his game film, go look at his stat line in the first or second round of the playoffs. He was 6 for 15 for 60 yards and 3 picks. It's not pretty, And so it's is this guy really going to be the dude like his last name suggests? Or... Now, I do think that he may not have a ton of help around him.
Which makes a big difference.
Because, if you go to Thompson right now, if you're the if Arch Manning was at Thompson right now, he would have basically an SEC offensive line, and he would basically have anywhere these guys wanted to go, wide receiver and running backs, because they're stacked on stacked on stacked on stacked. It's unbelievable. So, if you put him in that environment, he probably does produce the numbers, but
Yeah. So let me ask this question, and this is you don't have to have played sports in order to answer this question. So Cody, I'm looking for your opinion too.
Oh gosh.
Let's talk about NFL salaries. Do you think that not just the NFL, all professional sports, but just for these purposes, since we've been talking about football, we'll go NFL here. Do you think the NFL football players?
But you could also go college too now.
You could. Hold on.
That's a whole different. I didn't even say that.
That's another question. Do you think NFL football players get paid too much? Yes or no, and why?
I'll start. With the amount of time and years that one is going to really be able to play and function, Brady's not the norm of that either. You're talking 5 or 6 years, maybe if you're lucky.
Yeah.
I think the average is 4.5
for a quarterback.
No, for just any player drafted, the average is 4.5. I think.
So they're looking to have to make their life be able to be comfortable from that point on. Now, I think that every athlete, in my opinion, is paid too much, probably.
Okay. So ultimately, the answer is yes.
Male athletes, let's put it that way. Let me not get too far out here. But yes, baseball players, in my opinion, I know they play
baseball's almost a whole nother question.
That's
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable what they make.
And they can't take less money for a team.
Yeah. I know it.
Did y'all not to take a side note?
No,
but did y'all see the captain on ESPN?
Yes.
A-Rod was going to go to the Red Sox, not the Yankees, and they worked apparently for like a month on his contract. A-Rod, which everybody has their opinions about A-Rod, I do too.
Roids.
A-Rod was going to take way less money to go play for the Boston Red Sox. But because of the collective bargaining agreement and because of the Players Association, he legally could not take a break because they said he was worth more than he was willing. So, in essence, baseball will even tell you, even if you're being a team guy, which Tom has cut his contract a ton of times. So has Ben Roethlisberger.
Yep.
But in baseball, you can't even do that, which is just crazy to me.
Anyway, another topic. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think it depends on if you. This is funny. We've had this conversation before, but the people that want to bash salaries are also the biggest capitalist in the world.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So we're all about capitalism.
You're socialist, correct?
No. We're all about being a capitalist. We're all about being able to get whatever the market. You know, if little Miss Susie comes out with a product and it takes her from rags to riches, we will celebrate that. But if the market pays her 50 cents or 50 million, we think that either one is fair based on the market.
Fair market.
Well, the NFL
Is a market.
is a market.
Yeah.
And it makes gazillion, billion, trillion dollars, okay?
That's just fine.
It makes a ridiculous amount of money. So those players and the TV deals, they're making what the market will give them. Mm-hmm. So like Joe Montana,
$12.2 billion a year.
12 million, yeah.
NFL.
So like I think Joe Montana in his prime was one of the highest paid players at like $1 million.
Right.
I think he made $1 million. You know, and like $1 million.
I mean, we look at it now and go, that's nothing.
We think that's nothing, but then at the time, that's what the market was bringing. And so, you know, baseball players are signing hundreds of millions,
millions dollars,
300 million. It's just unbelievable because of the TV deals and the markets and the merchandise. And so, is it too much? Yeah, does anybody need that much money? But if you're a capitalist, that's what the market will pay them.
I think, to your point, most people talk out of both sides of their mouth on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
They get paid too much. Are you a
Here's
socialist?
the deal.
No.
What Aaron Rodgers makes, as much as I really am not a fan of him, what he makes has zero impact on my life. Like none. Not any. What are you looking at? Oh, NBA. Yeah, like and then
NBA took in $8.76 billion. MLB took in $9.56 billion, and the NFL brought in $12.2 billion.
So I mean that's all like
a lot of money.
That's all a lot of money, but I mean the NFL is the most popular, but it's actually a little bit closer than I thought it would be.
It is for me too. Yeah. It's closer.
Well, I mean, it's interesting too because I mean, when you think about that, and you think about like how big stadiums are, how many millions of dollars it takes to build those and stuff. I mean, it's just $1 billion company. You know, I mean, if you look at it from a capitalist point of view, it's no different.
Now, is it? We could also have the side conversation of like those owners of those teams. Mm. You know. Yes. That's probably not so capitalist, you know. Like that's probably in some areas that we would go. I don't know if that's okay, but you know, like, and then even Roger Goodell, the commissioner, making what he makes because he makes.
Look that up, Clay.
Ooh. What, Roger
Goodell? You ought to see what he makes.
What about you, Cody? You think they make too much money?
Dude, I don't know, and I also don't know like how to gauge per player. Like, I don't know what the average.
Tom Brady took in $15 million this year. Is that too much to throw a little football around?
For 18, 19, 20 games, you know.
Well, here's the other thing. I've also never played football.
I've
also never played
$63 million per year for good old Goodell.
Why would I care? It does not affect, like you said, it does not affect my life whatsoever.
Yeah, this is a podcast. We're just talking. What's your opinion? Of course, it don't affect us.
I don't really have an opinion because I don't put thought to it.
I think too another aspect of this that people don't think about. Again, I'm with you, D. I don't think that anybody should get paid that much money.
Teachers should make that money.
Football coaches.
They're underpaid too.
However, let me just
the
say,
market, and it's government funded, and it's like you don't see the return on that investment right away. So
if you're like Alabama, you just lower the standards.
All right, whoa. Shh. No, my daughter. All right.
I lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
Another aspect that people don't think about is like every one of those athletes have to have a nutritionist. They have to have a personal trainer. They have to have a dietitian.
Well, they don't have to.
Well,
But
to be
I mean,
successful,
LeBron James spends over $1.5 million on recovery, on bodily recovery.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And then if they're smart, then they've got a financial advisor.
But
So-
then there's also
I
Tom
think
Brady.
NFL requires now. By the way.
Tom Brady's contract was $15 million, but he didn't make $15 million.
No.
Because there's the Under Armour deal.
Yeah.
There's the whatever other.
Let's just find out.
He's
what old
by the
Tom
way, he's
worth.
an Aston Martin.
300 and something million probably.
Yeah, it's
Tom Brady.
yeah.
What is Tom Brady's net worth, which includes his houses and all that mess?
I mean, like Tiger Woods is $1 billion. So I mean, Tom's got to
I
be
bet
getting
him and
close to
Gazelle
that.
together for the
Why,
billion.
why can't we just give me a number? Like, why do we have?
You
I don't
click
want
that. Just click it. They want you to click it. Just click it.
I mean, I'm just thinking them.
This should not be difficult.
She's worth more than he is probably.
Yeah.
If you add
He married
his
her
wife,
for the money.
If you add his wife, and I don't even.
Tom, I killed myself. Oh,
If you add his wife, is it Gazelle?
Yes.
Not,
Gazelle.
Not Gazelle.
No.
That would be an animal.
Giselle. Giselle.
Giselle.
Giselle.
Bunchins.
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 Not that I know. I don't know.
Gazelle
Don't ask
Bunchins.
me. I don't know. I don't even know what she
She's
looks like.
worth $400 million.
She's worth
The couple's number is closer to $650 million.
See, that's low. That's low in my opinion.
That's pretty low. I
Yeah.
thght it'd be worth.
I mean,
about
Tiger-
$1 billion.
Y'all can say it's low all you want. I'd take 10%.
I just meant low for them, not low for me.
Bunch of Rockefellers over here. How much
Which, by the way, if there's another conversation like capitalism and
Rockefeller,
what
yes.
Rockefeller had in today's terms.
Yeah, it was more money than any humans ever had.
Oh my gosh!
It's unbelievable. Rockefeller's a really interesting dude, though, because he gave away most of it.
Yes,
He's actually pretty amazing guy.
Really
he was the
was.
10-10-80 guy, right? No, didn't he say give away 10, tithe 20, or give away 20, tithe 10, and then 80? You basically run it on 80.
Have you ever
Yeah.
heard the story about, so before he was rich, but he wasn't rich. He was going to get on a plane, or I'm sorry, a train to go to New York, and he woke up late, which was unbelievably uncharacteristic of him. So when he got there, he was able to get his luggage on the train, but he missed the train, and the train derailed and went into a ravine before it got to New York. If he'd been on
Hey-o.
the train, then there would have been a Rockefeller Center.
Wow,
Ain't that incredible?
wow.
Yep.
So God had something going on here.
Well, I guess it depends on how you look. I mean, yes. The answer to that
I was
question.
about to say,
Depends on how you
that's
look
gonna
at it.
sound. That's gonna sound
mean,
like not like a Clay comment. Well,
here's what
just
I mean.
happenstance.
Here's what I mean. Like I've done some research on Rockefeller, and from what I can find, he's a pretty good Christian dude. But at the same time, I know as soon as I say that, then people are going to be like, he used Christianity to get more money, which is possible. I don't know him. I never knew him.
Right.
I just know.
He never cheated me. Right? He never cheated me.
And I just know from what I've read and what I've seen. What I've read and from what I've seen, he seems like a pretty amazing guy.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, I've seen the stuff on the History channels and all that stuff with the Rockefellers and how they started and all that. And I'm like,
I don't know about now. I
I don't know.
Yeah, I hadn't kept up with him. They've never cheated me though. So
I did.
Kinda like
I
Coke.
did some. I can't remember the number. Okay, but I did some research. Rockefeller was so wealthy that it was like his. If they never gained another dollar, his offspring would be millionaires for like the next 30 generations.
yeah,
Something like
I have heard something crazy.
I don't know
like
if it
that.
was 30. Maybe that's excessive, but the point is, it was unbelievable. Let's see.
Well, if there was only a device.
Yeah.
Yeah, sitting right in front of me that I could use.
Yes.
I could just type something in. It would be real convenient. Give me an answer to anything.
Well,
$17 billion be what he'd be worth today.
what is Elon worth
Elon
right
is-
now?
What's he worth?
Definitely more than that.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah, 27.
Yeah.
271.
Oh, 271. Ooh.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's a
271.
lot.
That is
With the B.
unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
He left
And he-
Jeff Bezos.
Oh, yeah,
a
in the
long time
dust.
ago.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, 160 billion. Bless his heart. Gosh.
Gosh, he's having a rough time.
Zuckerberg's just 57. Bill Gates, the once great Bill Gates, 109 billion.
Man.
All right, so this skedaddles into this question. If you don't answer this question, Cody, and you just say, it don't affect my life, I'm going to be upset.
Okay.
Should any one human being have that much money? Because we look at that, and look, I'm not trying to go down this road because I know the criticism there, but it's just like when you talk about world hunger, you talk about how many people die in poverty every year, how many children die from poverty every single year, or every single day, every single second. Should Elon Musk have $271 billion?
I mean,
he earned it.
It is the capital thing. I'm just saying.
See, that's the difficulty of this question because as soon as you say no, you're a socialist.
I mean, all right, Cody. Give us something, baby.
I don't know.
Why are you tossing it to me, man?
Well, I'm just thinking because, I mean,
You have the least to lose here.
my perspective.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
No, just
And
saying
yours is-
we'll get toasted.
I guess so. I don't know. I don't like talking about money in general.
Why?
I don't know. I just don't. I think. But here, wow. Here's let me ask you this: if
You going Socrates on me?
well, no, you did that to me last time. If say Elon Musk does not make that money, where do you think that money's going to go?
That's a good point. And I will
Like,
say,
It's going to go to. It's going to go to something else that you're going to look at
gonna
and be
go to
like,
Jeff
oh
Bezos.
yeah, like they don't deserve to make that much money.
that's a good point.
It'll go either way.
I'll say
so,
too
man.
about Elon Musk. Again, I don't know Elon Musk, and we've talked
He's
about
never
this
cheated
before.
me that I know of.
Here's the from the surface, okay, and they may all be in the Illuminati and want to kill us all, but the difference to me between from what I've seen Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk is Elon Musk has billions of dollars and he wants to use every dime he has to advance the human civilization.
Yeah, like he doesn't have
Jeff
a house right now.
Bezos-
He's living with friends.
Friends.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a house.
$271 billion.
Don't you know? Don't you know that the people that he's staying with are like,
Hey
I
man.
hope he gives us a love offering. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Well, I mean, I'm sure Jeff Bezos' friends are at least billionaires.
probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Elon
He
Musk.
almost tore down. Jeff Bezos almost paid to have a historic bridge dismantled in the Netherlands just to get his yacht through.
Is this Jeff Bezos?
Bezos. Yes.
It's not surprising.
He's like, I'll just pay it down.
Have you ever watched videos of him?
No.
Like if you watch video, like people going up,
I know
Jeff,
nothing
Jeff,
about
what
Jeff
what is
Bezos.
your advice for the next generation? He'll be like, and then just walks off. He doesn't really do that. That was my interpretation of someone's.
I mean, Mark Cuban also, like, I mean, regardless of your
Yes.
political views, he put in a lot of areas. He puts his monies where his mouth's.
Yeah, I
are,
agree with
You know,
that.
like
Yeah. I like.
he created that pharmacy where you can get
Don't take insurance.
yeah, and it's like actually affordable. Like it's crazy, and so I mean, you know,
Jeff Bezos is just interested in getting rich.
well, I mean, he succeeded.
Yeah, he did.
I mean, all right. So here's a question: like, at what point when you hit a certain amount of dollar value, do you go, okay, I'm good?
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
I tell you what I find exciting.
I've never had an opportunity to think that way. You know?
I tell you what,
probably won't ever. You know,
I tell you what I find intriguing, and that, maybe
like
it's
to
just because
try
I'm a
it, maybe.
historical nerd, but like not so much now because Elon Musk has blown Jeff Bezos out of the water at this point.
like it was a close
But-
race for a minute.
Yeah, it
and then
was.
it's not.
But what's really interesting to me about that is like if you look at the history of Rockefeller and Vanderbilt and Carnegie and all them, they did the same thing. Like if you look back at the history of Rockefeller and Carnegie, they were unbelievably wealthy and they didn't even care about the money anymore. They just wanted to be more wealthy than each other.
Right.
Like it's just this huge competition.
Well, I mean that there is that study, like especially with church giving or with charitable donations, that the more you make, the more you hold on to it,
Yeah.
and the less you give. Which God's, people get that wrong all the time. That God wants you poor and miserable.
That's
It's-
incorrect.
That's not in the
That's
Bible.
incorrect.
And like He wants to bless you so that
He wants to
the
be your
more that
God.
you have, you can give away and you can bless people. So like here's my thing. The amount of money to me does not matter. What matters is, are you being intentional with what you've been given so that you can, there are people that make, a household makes $80,000 a year. Well, I mean, that puts you in the top like 2 or 3% in the whole world. Mm-hmm. So even though that may not be a ton with inflation, but are you being intentional with that money to bless people, to tithe, to give an offering above your tithe, and take care of people that have trouble?
Let me ask you that, because I don't disagree with that one bit. I'm in wholehearted agreement with that. But is there a dollar amount where that's not the case? Like $270 billion. What
do you mean, what's not the case?
Whereas, again,
are you saying that he should give away a large sum of money?
Should he be worth $270?
So I mean, I think what if, in his mind, number one, I don't think that he's a believer. Whatever that junk that Babylon B pulled, where he was like, "We got him." If you believe it, that was, to me. You don't make satire out of salvation, or salvation out of satire, however you want to word that. So, maybe in his mind,
you probably shouldn't do either.
Either one. I think in his mind, if he thinks I've got $271 billion and I'm putting every bit of it, like you said, to advance humankind, in his mind, he's at least putting forth the effort. And then I'll say this: there's a lot of folks in church that they ain't making $271 billion, but they making good money,
not on this list,
and they have no interest in humankind.
Yeah,
and they hold on to their money, and they give. Well, God, 10%. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, your budget could probably afford more than 10%, and God could take that. And does God need your money? No, but He wants you to give and have faith.
All right, so let me ask you this question.
Ask me,
because this is really interesting. I had a very wealthy individual ask me one time. The Bible tells me to give 10%. Actually, the New Testament says to go above and beyond, right? But he's genuinely asking a spiritual question here. He's not trying to just pinch
but it's not a catch-up.
Yeah. He says, should my 10%, does it have to all go to the church? Or can I give it to other organizations? Because, and he didn't say this because he's a humble human being, but here's reality. If he gave 10% of what he makes, it would like blow the doors off the church. Does that make sense? It would be like an unbelievable amount. Right. And could the church handle that much money? So the question is does your tithe have to go to just the local church, or can it go elsewhere too?
I mean, there's nowhere in Scripture that says, give it to, thou shalt give it to Mount Vernon or Solitude or Life Point
or whoever. Yeah, it doesn't matter. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're a member of the church, I would think you would want to give. But do you want to give it? If you have an option to give part of it here and then to another great organization somewhere else, I think you had. I don't know. I wouldn't want somebody to say, I couldn't give my money to just say the Boys Club of America or something. I'm just throwing something out there, that says this is a great organization that does this.
Does that count as tithe? Does it have to be spiritual in order for it to be granted as tithe? That's a tough one. Isn't that interesting?
Man,
that's interesting.
I mean, I think,
what do you think, Cody?
Well, I have a slight answer on what I think.
Okay.
I feel like, because I guess I might believe a little different than you guys. And
that's okay. We're all about disagreement here.
But I don't really...
you heard us argue about Tom Brady for 20 minutes.
This is true. I just sat here in silence. Couldn't believe my ears. I don't really... And spiritually, I'm going through a lot at the moment, so like there's still just a bunch of stuff I'm kind of figuring out. But I don't think I fully believe in quote unquote tithing. I would more describe of how I believe is just giving in general more than I do tithing personally.
Well, tithe means tenth, correct?
Yeah, I think so.
Give a tenth.
That's right.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
I just always felt, and maybe I'm wrong on this, and please correct me if I am. I just always felt that tithing and doing the 10% was a traditional thing around church, whereas it's more about just giving in general instead of like, okay, we'll set 10% aside and write a check here and then file it on my taxes. Like that's one thing I don't do at church. When I say, listen, this is, I've got nothing to lose. Like you said, I don't.
I'm not saying because I disagree. I'm saying let's go. We're gonna run 2 episodes now. I'm in.
Personally, that was, and this is just a personal thing for me. Like I started to not feel good about that.
About just
spiritually, yeah. Well, just filing all my taxes and doing the whole envelope thing and everything, and I was like, no, I'd rather just give a certain amount, not 10%, just pray about it, get an amount that I feel like, okay, I can afford that. I obviously want to give a good amount, but and still be able to afford how I live. But I give that in cash, and nobody knows whenever they go to cut it up. Nobody knows who that's from. And personally, I have felt like God has blessed me more through that than.
So you give that money to someone rather than the church? Is that what you just said?
No.
He's just saying he gives cash. I give it to the church, but nobody knows he gave it.
Yes, but here's the other thing. I also. I wouldn't classify as giving to a charity organization as tithing, but then again, that doesn't really. I wouldn't call what I do at church tithing either. So I don't disagree if he felt good about giving it to a certain organization rather than.
Do you know what an iconoclasm is?
No, dude.
An iconoclast. An iconoclast is someone who hates tradition merely because it's traditional.
That's what I thought. I thought it was a tradition.
I don't think there's anything wrong with what you just said. I think you're splitting hairs a little bit.
What do you mean? Like how am I splitting hairs?
If you'd rather call it giving, I think that's fine, but it's the same thing as tithing.
I mean, I don't think so.
How so?
I feel like 99% of the time, I feel like if you take a church person and say, what is tithing? They're going to describe it as either I'm going to write a check or I'm going to put cash in an envelope. Here's my address. Here's my name.
It's wood. It's wood.
Biggity bang, body big boom. I get it. I can file it on my taxes. I get that money back. That's what I feel like a majority of church people would describe as tithing, whereas I don't.
Is that correct or incorrect in your opinion?
I mean, I don't know. It's just how
I think it's incorrect.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if your motive of giving is just to get the tax break,
that's jacked.
That's not
I'll be honest with you.
Motive.
There used to be a time where I whispered this, and I ain't whispering it anymore. When we used to do, and Darren's gonna know exactly what I'm talking about as soon as I say it because he's seen me blow up about it a time or two. When we used to go get yard sale stuff for the yard sale, and you go and pick up a bunch of stuff, and the human being that is just give you the stuff, they're like completely clamoring to get their little receipt so they can claim it on there.
They're like,
I almost wanted to dump all their crap out on their yard.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen Clay's face.
Oh my gosh!
I need a receipt on, for.
Let me give you a receipt.
And I'm like,
let me just give you a receipt.
Clay, you can just see him and just go, what?
Well, look. Can we all agree that we've made giving a tradition and something that we've made it transactional, which is church in general.
Yes.
Like
so I think that's your issue.
Well, here's kind of, but here's the other thing that I was going to say as well, as is if said person who you were talking about is trying to decide to give a good amount of money to a charity organization or church, I feel like that's not. Personally, if you're somebody who trusts God financially with your financial stability, if you trust God with that, I feel like that's not necessarily a one-on-one. Like, I don't think that's a me and you conversation. I think that's a him and God conversation.
I agree with that.
I mean? And I think whatever he feels like he needs to do, then that would be justified in that moment. I feel like financially, if you trust God, that's between you and him.
I think
I agree with that.
I think the people that are most free in their giving, okay? In other words, it flows, God blesses them. They're putting it where it needs to go. There's an offering above their giving, because there is a difference between tithing and an offering. Okay, so there is a difference.
There is a difference.
There is a difference, because the offering comes above and beyond the agreed upon amount that you've decided that you're going to hand over, because ultimately it's all God's anyway, and you're giving God. I think the timing matters. Do you give it first, or do you give it out of what's left? And so I think people miss that. They put the tithe at the bottom, or the giving at the bottom, based on do I want to go to the movies this week? Do we got a trip to Six Flags? Yep. I want to do this and this and this. Then I'm going to just whatever at the end of the month I'm going to have 150 left. Okay, I'll give that. What I feel like God wants is the agreed upon amount that you've prayed about, that you feel good about, and you give that first, unconditionally first. And I'm like you. I something that violated my conscience was the reoccurring online giving. Yep. I have no problem with online giving. I think it's fantastic. I love text to give. Whatever mode that your church uses, fantastic. My church offered, you set up your credit card information, you set up what date you want it to come out, and that's awesome.
Yeah, you never have to let nobody.
And here's
I agree with that. It's Jack.
One day I was thinking, I haven't even said thank you for the fact that I get to tithe, because it's been like 3 months and that just came out. And then there's a part of me that goes, well, I gave it first. It came out on the first, and it's like, so I had to go in. I had to take that reoccurring payment out because it violated my conscience. And now I still give online. I have no problem giving online. I have to manually put it in and go. And by the way, I get paid.
Thank you, Lord.
I get paid every 2 weeks. My wife gets paid once a month. So technically, I'm tithing 3 times a month based on what me and my wife and God have agreed on.
Yeah.
And I'm manually going in and clicking and I put the amount in, and before I hit send, I say, thank you for allowing me to give this back to you. Boom. And but here's the deal. If I come across an influx of cash, let's say that I have that product in the capitalist market that makes me, or I inherit.
You invented the Snuggie.
I invented the Snuggie,
and therefore you are a gazillionaire.
Which, by the way, I just want to throw this out. When I used to teach 7th grade, I would teach capitalism in the economics part like this, very nonchalantly. I came up with this thing my very first year teaching, it just on the fly, and I said the market will bear basically anything that it chooses. If there's a demand and you can keep up with the supply. And so here's what I came up with: nose jackets. I said, if somebody invents nose jackets, okay, then in the market wants that, and there's this demand for nose jackets, and I said, little yellow
go
ones.
Into your nostrils?
No, it was just look. Don't get into the. Please don't be that 7th grade student right now that asks all those crazy questions. Just a nose jacket, however you want to imagine that. Just imagine it. And here's the deal: all these people that made the money off masks during COVID, I want my money. That's my intellectual property.
Yeah. Yeah.
But all right. If I come across an influx of money, then it's my responsibility in my relationship with Jesus to sit down, maybe fast for a little bit, maybe pray for a little bit, maybe turn the TV and the phones off for a weekend or a week, and me and my wife say, this is what we're doing. You go pray about it. I'm gonna pray about it, and let's come back and let's give what we feel like God wants us to give. Guess what? That might be 10%. That might be 25%. It might be you need to give 10% here and you need to give 10% there. Yeah. But I feel like that's our responsibility have those conversations.
Each one must give as he has decided in his heart, not reluctantly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver.
Which there is that argument that the tithe is an Old Testament law, and Jesus
tradition.
came to fulfill the law. So if you love him with all your heart, mind, and soul, and you love others as yourself, then you can fulfill that law by accomplishing those two things.
On the first day of every week, each of you is to put something aside and store it up as he may prosper, so that there will be no collecting when I come.
There you go.
I'm glad I use that site all the time.
Openbible.info.
Yep,
It's
all
amazing.
the time.
I think part of the problem is we're not. There's so many things in our Christian lives that we believe, but we'll never say we believe because we know that we shouldn't believe them. You know what I'm talking about?
That's the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard
That's
you
true.
say.
It's so true.
That's true. And because we can't admit to ourselves that we believe these things because we refuse to.
Please give me an example.
I will.
Please,
I will.
for the love of God, give me an
I
example.
will give you an example. It is applicable to what we're talking about. I'm not hating on Solitude or anybody else that has that system that you were talking about because I think perhaps it's possible that it could be done well.
Bro, you dissing already?
No, I'm just if someone who gets in this rogue routine of I've got to give 10%, and so let's just draw it. Let's make it convenient. We'll draw it out of my account. Never even have to worry about it and think about it. What that person has done is they have assumed that God needs their money. Right? Like, oh, God needs my money, so therefore I'm going to fulfill this monthly obligation of giving him this certain dollar amount every month. And
transaction.
Therefore, and that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Like, they would never, if you were to ask them, are you under this thought that God needs your money, and therefore you're just going to, in an obligatory way, give him money every week or month? They're going to go, no, that's ridiculous. But in practice, it's the way they live, right? And there's so many of those. There's so many of those.
Yeah.
It's like, for example, I preached this morning, and the question was, and you look in Mark 8, and I'm not going to give a rundown of the sermon because no one wants to hear it anyway. We got to go, but
wrap it up.
It's in Mark 8, and Jesus and the disciples are walking, and Jesus asks them. He says, "Who do people say that I am?" And they say, "Well, some say that you're Elijah, some say that you're John the Baptist."
He said, "Who do you?"
And Jesus says, "Who do you think that I am?" And they say, "Well, Peter says you're the Christ, you're the anointed, the Messiah." And immediately, Jesus starts talking about his crucifixion. Immediately, and that's when when Peter starts rebuking him, like, "Far be it from you, Lord. That's not going to happen to you. What you just said." And Jesus says, "Get behind me, Satan." And the underlying question there, and the reason why he does that is because Peter, because he's a good Jew, he has been taught his entire life that the Messiah is going to be a revolutionary. He's going to come. He's going to rule.
Some gladiator.
He's going to take the Roman Empire down. He's going to set up his kingdom on earth. And so Peter
and free them for their benefit, by the way, their
selfish benefit. And so for Peter and all the disciples, not just Peter, we're not just crapping on Peter here. They're thinking, if I follow this man, then life in the near future is going to be good.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be rich. It's going to be wealthy. It's going to be good. We're not going to be in poverty anymore. We're not going to have to deal with no fishing.
We ain't fishing no more.
And so when Peter says, "You're the Messiah," and then Jesus says, "I'm going to die."
Peter's like, "Whoa, not you,
Peter, he's dealing with the fact that he's going to lose a friend. There's that. He's going to lose the guy he's been with for 3 years. Or it's not 3 years at that point, but for a while. But also, deep down to his core, what Jesus is saying is the life that you thought you were going to have is not going to happen. Mm-hmm. And so the question in regards to what we were talking about is why are we a Christian? Like, why are you following Jesus? Because if it's for some selfish reason of, I just want to escape hell, or they're under some superstition that you're going to become very healthy and very wealthy if you become a Christian, that you're in the same boat as Peter and the rest of the disciples.
Yep.
Like, you're using Jesus for your own personal benefit. Again, if you were to ask church folks, "Hey, have you been using Jesus for your own personal benefit?"
They're going to
go, "Absolutely not."
But
because the point of the sermon, the one big point was, you can't follow Jesus just to get what you want. And I said, every one of us in here agrees with that statement. But every one of us, on a pretty systematic level, do not live as though that were the case.
Right.
Like, why doesn't Jesus answer my prayers? Why doesn't he saved my mama in the hospital? Why? And we get angry and disappointed with God because He's not fulfilling our prayer requests. When the Bible is very clear that it's not about you. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about God. And if you want to be a follower of Jesus, you have to follow Him to the cross.
That's right.
Yeah. And then live your life like whether it's tithing, you have to live that life sacrificially and obediently to the fact. Like, it's funny that you mentioned that. Like, this morning which, by the way, my Sunday school lesson is a lot like this podcast, just kind of, because we did not plan to talk about tithing.
Sporadic and unpopular.
The Holy Spirit just kind of led that too. So, like, this morning we were talking about, like, living a joyful existence and having freedom in Christ, but yet we feel like that's a bunch of rules and regulations and thou shalt nots. And I said, look, the thing is, if all of you right now, you're about to go back to school, if your parents bought you this really nice desk for your room, like, it had multiple levels and shelves and places for bookshelves in your computer, and maybe it had some built-in speakers and all this cool stuff, had a footrest, and you took the first thing out of the box, you took the instruction guide, and then you ripped the instructions up and said, I know how to put the desk together. After about 30, 40 minutes, when you've cussed the box and said things you shouldn't and broke something, but it's not the box's fault. It's not the desk's fault. Well, we do that with life. God's literally given us a book to help us with life, but we don't read it and we're not obedient to His word. And then we wonder what's happening. Like, we have to be obedient.
Yeah,
we have to be able
I think
to follow that.
That has to, and if Q was here, he'd call me Piper. But that has to be rooted in joy. Like, it has to be. Like, I was talking to this guy the other day, and he's like, I'm just not disciplined like I should. I'm like, I wished I was more disciplined to read the Bible, to pray, do all these disciplines, and I keep trying, and I won't. And I'm just saying, I've never just been real disciplined in reading the Bible and got more joy from Christ from it. I'm not saying that I've not gotten joy from reading the Bible, joy in Christ from reading the Bible. I have. But the solution is not, I just need to try hard and read the Bible more.
It's the relationship part of it.
Yeah. The reason why I'm really, really excited to read God's Word is because I'm really, really in love with God.
Yeah. And which, by the way, like, if you're really, really in love with God, you'll give whatever money He tells you to. Because you'll trust, like, okay, God. Like my wife, I love her to death. And there's some things I really don't want to spend money on. But because I love her, that's fine.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
It's like the doggone Jeep down there. I don't know if y'all noticed that.
I saw that. Was that yours?
It's a recent purchase.
Let's go.
You know why I bought that? Not because I needed a Jeep. It's because my wife really wanted a Jeep.
Well, what? Good for her. And looks good on you.
But he just gets to drive it sometimes.
I am really pumped.
I hit it when I pulled in. Sorry.
Sorry.
Tweet that, you idiot.
That was the first thing I thought of. I thought, man, is Q brought a Jeep or something? I know it's not Clay.
What's Clay's car?
That's cool. That is. But you're right. That's the way we lose it.
Well,
and as you get older, you think that you're going to get a whole lot better at trying to show yourself how much you care about God. If it's motivated by you, it doesn't work.
God don't need your money.
He don't need your money. He
don't need you to be a Bible scholar.
He doesn't need it. He just wants you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And which comes the next question too, and then we got to stop. Is the next question, and it's a logical, very necessary question. Is okay. Well, if I don't have joy in God in Christ, then how do I get more joy in Christ? That's a logical question. And I'll tell you from my own personal experiences, because all of our lives are spiritual roller coasters, right? I mean, it's just like sometimes you're on Mount Zion. Like, it's just amazing. You and God are there together. And then other times it's like, where's He at? And for me, every time that I've lacked joy in Christ, contemplating the cross always brings me joy. Like, if you
Alistair Bay,
you think about that. I mean, like the unbelievable sacrifice that was completely unnecessary for justice to happen. For justice to take place and God to continue to be God, all He had to do is destroy us. But instead, He died on the cross. Contemplating that always brings back my joy, personally. Mostly to a greater degree. Anyway, I think that's a good stopping point. Hey, appreciate y'all listening. Appreciate y'all viewing in. Just as a little, for those who have stuck in here for an hour and 12 minutes.
It's a good one.
You are the ones who need to hear what I'm about to say. So what we've decided to do in regards to scheduling is we'll do two new episodes, and then after on that third, a new episode a week for 2 weeks, and then on that third week there's no new episode, but then we get clips of the last two. So that's what we're calling clip week. So there's that. It's kind of a little scheduling
because our schedules are crazy.
Yeah, Derek's a teacher now, so
it's crazy.
And so there's that. Appreciate y'all watching. If you are on YouTube, if you feel inclined, hit the little thumbs up, the subscribe, and all that good stuff.
Share to your mama and them.
Yes, tell your
That's
friends and your mama and them.
Mama and them.
Mama and them.
Mama and them.
All right, y'all take it easy. Appreciate you watching.
Guys. Appreciate it.
What's up? Did you enjoy that episode? We hope that you did. If you did, hit that like button, the subscribe button, and tell your friends about the show. And remember, if you have a topic that you want us to talk about, act like fools, and just goof around about, hey, leave a comment on YouTube if that's where you're watching, or leave us an email, or any way you can get in contact with us to tell us about that topic. We want to hear about it. Hey, appreciate you. Take care.